Hey, welcome to episode 121 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording June 27th, 2021. My name is Eric, the host of the show, based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and as a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events. I started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
And you forgot to mention president of the Red Dawn Fan Club.
Well, hey, I thought that was you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My name is Ian. I live on Vancouver Island. I'm a student of preparedness, target shooter, and my farm is designated overheated handyman.
Are you wearing pants tonight?
Maybe, maybe not.
All right.
That's why his camera's off all of a sudden.
That's all
I'm
right.
Alan.
It's a
I'm
little
safety
concerning.
trainer, first responder, security expert, overall safety nerd, and the chief executive officer of the Red Dawn Fan Club.
I'm Scott, the frazzled new dad, paramedic splitting my time between Southern and Northern Ontario. I like learning things, and I don't accept things will always carry on the way they have, simply because I want them to.
Oh, I should stop muting myself. If you want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper Podcast on the air, please buy some swag. We have both wicked awesome t-shirts that say Canadian Prepper Podcast. They're very cool and very comfortable. And the super cool tactical Velcro patch. You can get those both at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes to like us on Facebook and submit a review on iTunes. We also want your feedback, good or bad, or if it's just a topic you'd like us to cover. Please let us know by email at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some silver screen content for you in this episode. First, we're going to start off with some preparedness-related news articles. Next, we'll let you know what we've done for our preparedness since the last episode. Then we're going to get into the main topic, if I could talk, our favorite prepper movies and why. So let's move into the news.
I don't have a link for it, but kind of a heads up for everybody. If you don't already know, wildfire season is heating up, no pun intended. But it is it's getting bad, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty bad one this year. Across the entire continent, we're seeing earlier and heavier fire activity than last year, and last year was the worst on record. So prepare yourselves accordingly. Have fire breaks, all that good stuff. Check your CO detectors. All the things that we need to have.
2 minutes, 45 seconds.
I'm pretty sure this is
record.
37 episodes consecutively. But in all seriousness, these fires do spread quickly. They can spread in different directions without much warning. Anybody in Alberta remembers, firsthand the Fort McMurray challenges where we thought we had, hours to get out, and it turned out to be minutes, or days turned into hours. Last year we talked with Hughes out in the East Coast, where he was, he had a 2-hour bug out plan, and he all of a sudden had 10 minutes to get out of the house. So if your area is threatened by wildfires, back your vehicles in, keep your tanks full, and keep whatever you need in your vehicles. Also, know how to drive every vehicle in your fleet.
Fair enough. And the gas tank's above half, of course. Yeah. Okay, well, actually, I can attest to that too, because we're going through a heat wave out here too, which is about 9 or 10 degrees warmer than it normally would be at this time of year, which is pretty crazy. So,
is it like 24 now?
No, believe it or not, it's 37 right now, and it's gonna be 38 tomorrow. It's crazy.
Yikes.
It's a little warm.
Yeah,
a little warmer than we are here, but yeah.
Yeah, right next to the ocean, especially. So, anyway, so just to prove that we are indeed the proper news source, because I think we beat the Wall Street Journal by about 2 weeks. They put out an article that said the world relies on one chip maker now. So they mentioned in this article a few other chip makers have had some mysterious fires and production problems and everything else, and so now basically the entire world is relying on one chip maker out of Taiwan. That basically, if it goes up, pretty much everything stops. Cars, small gadgets, everything. Apple iPhones. Every Apple iPhone chip is made in this one factory, and so on and so on. So it's a very interesting article, and the fact that I think even the mainstream media that isn't the Prepper Podcast recognizes this as being a problem as well to keep an eye on.
So does this mean we might have to go back to talking face to face?
Or
Yeah.
landlines. Heaven forbid
Stop the world. I
landlines.
want to get off.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
that
could go back to
yeah.
like payphones on the street corner that actually are everywhere.
Yeah, it's
Pay
like
what?
$1 a call now. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no.
But in all reality, though, like production is being shut down and across just about every industry that relies on chips because of this problem. Like there are huge material shortages for this right now.
Yeah, this is actually kind of amazing when you see. I guess a bunch of cars are coming off the lots right now, and they're all missing like one or two chips, so they can't be sold, but they're 99% complete.
Yeah, or some of them are just being sold without features that they would normally come with, and just being told, "Well, sorry, sucks to be you. We can't put it in later, but here's your vehicle."
Yeah, it's amazing. They're definitely a tenuous supply chain at best. So
Don't worry, they take $50 off, so it's fine.
and the chip probably costs $2, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, let's see here. The second article I had was from lesser, I guess, reliable source, but Summit.news anyway. And it basically was an article quoting one from I think the Guardian or somebody other in the UK, anyways, about how England has finally come to the realization that having mask mandates and lockdowns has caused a huge economic impact in their country.
Come on. What?
So they're just like, hey, we didn't actually see this coming, but over the last year, we've really devastated our economy. So we're going to drop the mask mandate come July 19th or something like that. I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Well done.
So I guess government's on top of these things,
Sure.
Anyway, that's all I had.
All right. So I've got one here from CBC. Yes, CBC, but it's in regards to the condo tower collapse in Florida. So unfortunately, 9 confirmed deceased, 4 Canadians among dozens still missing. So just want to include this in the news section as a bit of a reminder that you never really know what's going to happen.
Well, I think it's fair to say that of the dozens still missing after a few days, it's looking pretty grim. I mean, like when you got a building falling on people and they haven't had water for 3 days, it's like they're probably not missing anymore. They're probably getting moved over to another category.
I would imagine, unfortunately, yeah.
It goes from search to recovery or rescue to recovery about now. I think that happened on Thursday, right?
Yeah.
Watching some of the video from that was just absolutely incredible. We should note, I mean, as much as there are 9 confirmed fatalities, and that is absolutely tragic without question. They also made at least 45 rescues.
Yep.
So there's
that as well.
A lot of people worked really, really hard to do the best they could. And a huge shout out to Miami-Dade Fire Department. Very naturally, most of my Instagram feed is first responder pages, and seeing the volume of work that these guys are doing to save as many lives as possible is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, some good work in a tragic circumstance, but also serves as a good reminder that you never know what's going to happen, and you may think that the building you're in is secure, but it might not be. And
well, I mean, the story was making me think about my bug out bag and what, if building overhead announces "get out now" because half of it's collapsed, you're intact, but odds are you're never setting foot in your apartment again to get anything. So,
even your 72-hour kit, right? Because it's not just your building that's affected. 3 blocks surrounding are now evacuated and everybody's displaced. So
that's a good point.
That evacuation route, 72 hours to get your poop in a group and figure out where you're going, what you're doing. Absolutely essential.
And this is one of those prime examples where you might just be bugging out to a hotel room, not necessarily in a woods, with your SKS or anything else. So, I mean, it's definitely a big thing. And the sad part about this too is it's already coming out that, sure enough, there's some warning signs years in advance that, people have been talking about how the foundation had problems. And I guess some of the workers were sitting there clanging away at the foundation for the last week. Obviously, they clanged away a little too hard or something, but there was clearly some foreseeable problems that they decided to kind of hush up rather than actually making it, more of a public awareness thing. So there's going to be a lot of lessons learned, I think, from this long term. I
think so. That's at least there's going to be some lessons learned out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the scary thing, a friend of mine lived in a condo building, which they found all sorts of structural problems, and it just turned into this incredibly drawn out, protracted legal battle for who was to blame. And nothing was getting fixed in the interim. So I think in Florida they said the repair they needed to do was a $9 million repair, which divided amongst a whole lot of condo owners is still an awful lot of money for each of them.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
But with that, shall we move into what we've done lately for preps?
Well, I bought the parts for my Faraday box. I don't think I moved quite as far as some other people here. But 1 second after always scares the crap out of me. I also stocked up on dog food. Got to keep the canines fed. Or if things go really bad, it's maybe an odd tasting chili, but it's a whole lot of calories that are easy to store with a crazy long shelf life.
Is it the dog or the food?
The kibble.
Oh boy.
The kibble. All right. So yeah, let's go back to 1 second after. We'll have this fight again. But I mean, as we were saying in the 1 year war game episode, yeah, I would probably stock up on a whole lot of dog food because I figured I could get in and out of there a whole lot easier than the chaos of the grocery store.
That's true.
Yeah.
So part of my pantry is like 400 bottles of the tahini spice, like the chili lime. Makes anything taste good.
Well, I'm 90% sure that the stag chili and the dog beef stew or whatever is probably the same stuff. It just gets split into two pipes, and one goes into the dog food side, one goes to the human food side. I'm pretty sure some of that stuff is indistinguishable from the other.
I think you're probably right. But hey,
on
different
that
labels,
note,
so it has to be fun.
Yeah.
Something else I saw, I forget who posted it. Was maybe the New York Times. Somebody did a DNA test on Subway tuna, and it contained no tuna.
Mm-hmm. Color me shocked.
Similar concept, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. All right. So for what I've done lately, got out to some Crown land, set up the tents for a few days. It was glorious. No cell reception. It's great. Just the tents, boat, campfire, some fish. Awesome. Shockingly, I know this is going to be very shocking for everybody listening. I set up my HF rig as well. Weird for me, I know, but got that set up, and actually was able to pick up some stations in the U.S. So that was kind of neat. But I've found out I got to do a little bit of tweaking on my antenna setup. So we weren't making any contacts with anybody. Nobody could hear us. We could certainly hear a bunch of stations. So I got to figure that setup out a little bit more. But it was fun to just get out for a couple of days and goof around with that and do a whole lot of nothing.
What kind of antenna had you been using?
So I just had a vertical, just like a whip antenna. So
Okay.
I think I'm going to get something a little bit different, like a wire antenna of some sort that I can maybe do as a dipole. Throw it up some trees. Maybe I'll get a little bit better ability to actually send signal versus just receive. We'll see. It's an antenna I've had forever. I've just never really goofed around with it much. So it goes back to testing your gear.
There you go.
Why am I just hearing about testing my gear for the first time tonight?
I know, right? 121 episodes, and we're just mentioning it now. Well, if you've listened to this point, test your gear.
Sounds important. I should write that down.
If you're a new listener to the show,
Mind blown.
Yeah. I know we haven't mentioned it much, but yeah, just test your gear. Also finished up my first Faraday ammo can project. So used a 50 cal ammo can that they ordered a couple weeks ago after the book club, and got that all set up. And so far, I'm happy with the results. Hopefully, never have to test it. So next up is portable ham radio and battery/solar box. Thanks to the idea, Ian. So that'll be the next project. But this one's all built and ready to go, and it took a couple hours to do, but pretty happy with the results at it. And then just put a couple of things in place last night. We had a bunch of storms rolling through with some tornado watches and some freaky looking skies at times. So just put all my little checklists in place for things that were going on, got the radio up and going, and got a couple of streams going to listen to what was going on. And thankfully nothing crazy here. Chatsworth had a tornado touchdown and go through, but that's a little bit of a distance from here, but
Goddard
was able
also
to
had
lose
one
the-
right on Lake Huron.
oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, right, just outside of town.
Yeah, they're calling for it to come this way and come right through, but thankfully that didn't happen. But I was able to put everything in place and get the radios on and get the streams going and have all the information kind of flowing. So that was good.
Brad has a question online. How do you test a Faraday cage?
It's a great question.
Jumper
You're going to
cables.
start a fight. You're going to start a fight, Brad. Everybody's got their own kind of ways of doing it.
You need a flux capacitor to generate
yeah,
1.21 gigawatts to be able to over simulate a bolt of lightning. Otherwise, you're not actually testing it properly.
Or phone Iran, get them to detonate one overhead your house from maybe 30 miles up, and just ask them to do you a solid.
So these are the answers that you typically get on the internet, Brad. Yeah. So you're going to get all kinds of answers. There's I can't remember the name of the YouTube.
It's
video that I watched from
the EMP doctor.
The EMP doctor. That's it. Yeah. He does some pretty good tests that are actually scientifically done. So I kind of built my box around his principles, hoping that he is legitimately a doctor. Looks like it. He wore a tie. So
he's on the internet. He calls himself a doctor. What else do you want?
Well, he's probably talking about doing everything you guys just suggested too. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's all kinds of different ways. A lot of people say you throw your cell phone in. If it stops getting reception, you're good. I don't really buy that. Is it blocking some signal at that point? Yeah. Is it blocking enough to stop, an EMP? I don't think it is at that point, but it's going to block something. But I just, like I said, I built my box around the EMP doctor's way of doing things there, and hopefully it works. Hopefully I never have to tell you if it did or it didn't. So,
well, chances are good we won't be able to tell you in this platform if it did.
Well, or didn't. If I did it right, we can. If I didn't do it right.
If you put your laptop in an ammo can, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the plan.
And the interweb stays intact. And
well, I would just do a straight through cable connection to another laptop. I'd stream to myself, and well, hey, if you want to sit around the other laptop and watch, well, great.
Cool.
We know Jeff's not coming here for that though, based on the last episode.
Yeah, just didn't want to hang out tonight. As for myself, as you can see by my much straighter and neater background, I finished some minor home renovations, and so now I've got the blackout curtains covering all of the stacks of Sterilite containers. So
your shed is looking fantastic.
Yeah, it looks a lot different. I know.
I can see a lot of light through those blackout curtains.
Oh yeah, the blackout curtains are still a work in progress because, as you can see, the little tension rods up top are not quite flush with the window there, so I got to tighten those up a bit. But
so that's what was behind the boxes.
Yeah, that's right. This is actually the sunroom in our house, so it's a move inside versus the shed. But anyways, we got
Makes
extra
sense
room
with
now.
all the sun in the windows.
Yeah, so the sun is gone right now. Well, it's still out there, but it's being blocked off. Anyway, so that kind of took a bit of time, is getting the former daughter's bedroom, now office, set up. I got all my stuff moved in here, and
you have a former daughter?
Yeah, I
was just going to call him on that.
Yes, the room that formerly belonged to the daughter, now she is outside the house. How's that sound?
So she moved out.
Yes, she did. So the Wi-Fi is spotty at best, so hence I'm going to kill my camera again because I don't want to drop off, because I want to just drone on incessantly for 5 minutes. So I shall.
All right.
Anyways, new podcast location, which is great. Hopefully the Wi-Fi works. Spent, a couple days going into the woods here, getting some deadfall that I chopped up earlier in the year during the cool time. Then it got too hot to work, so I decided to call quits for that. With the heat wave, I set up my little hillbilly wash tub, which is a funny story in itself. I sent you guys some racy pictures there before, but
I'm still washing my eyes out.
Got me going.
Yeah.
Two really different answers there.
Whoa, I didn't expect that one. So I took one of the old rainwater catchment tubs, took a pressure washer to it, cleaned it out, and then of course took it back to new condition. But it's just a nice little soaker tub to get rid of the heat stroke or heat exhaustion anyway. Because you start working out here for 5 minutes, and once you stop sweating, it's usually time to sit down and hydrate and kind of cool down a bit. So set up the tub there with some fresh water. Decent temperature. Doesn't take long to warm up at this temperature, of course. And I've been basically spending the last couple of days just making sure the animals are cooled down, plants are watered, everything else. Because there's really not much else you can do with this kind of temperature. But The last couple of days, I was working on the pump house down at the bottom of the property. Had to flush out the tank because it has to be done every once in a while. Setting up the pump house for paint jobs, just a little bit of home renos there. Not really much going on there. And then had a couple new neighbors move in, so I thought I'd make some initial contacts with them and kind of suss them out. And mags are important, especially neighborhood ones. So I thought I'd just give that a try, and that's pretty much it. It was pretty slack for preparedness last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Just got a note for anybody listening in Toronto area, Midland and 401 in Scarborough. There's currently a level 2 hazmat incident with a looks like about a 4 kilometer perimeter set up around there. So if you're in that area, maybe hop over to Twitter and check out Toronto Fire's feed. Find out what you're supposed to be doing. Crank on your radio, your TV. Make sure that you're staying safe. Not sure what the hazard is, but it's it looks like a pretty serious leak. So that's what just anybody in that area.
I believe that's how that Dave Bautista movie that just came out, Army of the Dead. I do believe that's how it started. Highway incident.
Yeah, this one's not right on the highway. It looks like it's a little north of the highway, but it's still not good. Don't know what the product is. Don't know which way it's blowing or whether wind is a factor. But if that's your area, stay safe. Listen to the notification from fire because they got a lot of vehicles on scene. Anyways, this week for me, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on. Made some progress on my truck radio setup. Actually was able to make contact, get on the net with the local amateur radio club. Somebody actually recognized my call sign because it belonged to my grandpa before me, which was kind of cool. Was able to actually test the range out on the out from their repeater, so I can't connect from my house to that repeater directly, but I can hear them pretty well once they're on. So I was able to make contact actually today with another local repeater, which is nice. Bought some new flashlights because you can never have enough. And it seems to be them transitioning everything over to the 18650 batteries, which are large and in charge, but they're rechargeable. They have a pretty good lifespan. Lithium ion. I've got a couple of headlamps, a couple of hand lights. They're all on 18650, and I'm building up a reserve battery. So that seems to be my new thing, trying to standardize as much as I can. The garden is looking good. I've got about 4,000 tomatoes that are about to that are going to be sprouting in the next little bit, and my first batch of potatoes is just about ready for harvest. They sprouted their flowers about 3 weeks ago, so we'll be up 1 or 2 more weeks. We'll start digging, see how much we can get, and then because it's still so early in the season, it looks like we might even be able to plant them again and get a second batch, depending on how quickly it turns cold this year. So that could be fun. It looks like we'll get about 50 pounds now, and if we can do it again, then we'll have enough potatoes to feed my teenage children for the next for the rest of the winter. Unfortunately, the rain has delayed my garage project a little bit, but I got all the conduit run in for electrical communications gas line, and ready to go as soon as I've got an excavator available to come and do my backfill. We're ready to move on. Fingers crossed, we'll be framing second week of July. That's that's about all I got for now.
Excellent.
Met up with Gavin when I was in the GTA. Gavin from the other CPP. He's been on our show a couple of times, and met up with him and his special lady friend, and they were it was a great little chat. Had a great afternoon visit.
Very
That's
cool.
what I got. I think that's it for me for now.
How many potato plants do you have in the garden to give you 50 pounds of potatoes?
I honestly don't know. I didn't plant them. My better half and her father did. Unfortunately, it's a little too dark for me to see them right now from where I'm sitting, but in the neighborhood of 30.
Okay.
And so each potato that we planted, right? We planted all the seed potatoes. They all popped up really, really quickly, and each one of those sprouts off a few potatoes. So that's what I'm hearing is that this I would say about 30 plants will give us approximately 50 pounds of potatoes if everything goes well. Won't know until we actually dig them up and find out, but it's gonna be fun when we do.
Well, very cool. I might come back to this when I get to my movie.
All right.
Except for hopefully your growing medium is a little better. But anyway.
Ideally.
Oh, that was a good transition. Let's move into the main topic, shall we?
So, one of the things that we've talked about on the podcast is how looking at books, video games, movies, TV, whatever, just give you some different thoughts, ideas. I mean, some of them are a little ridiculous and they're sort of made to come to a climactic ending. But if some of the media makes you think about your preps, these are useful things. I mean, some of the books we've covered have made me just tweak one or two little things that would be a big problem if I hadn't thought of them ahead of time. So I enjoy these activities. So we said, hey, let's look at some movies. Who doesn't enjoy movies? And see what we got out of them.
And apparently Jeff.
Yeah. It's because he
Basically
didn't show
the
up today. Yeah. Although he's in the comments or he's watching. He didn't want to come and chat today, whatever.
Well, he can come join us another time, I guess.
Well, maybe not. Maybe we don't let him come back.
All right. Yeah, actually, Scott, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of movies out there that are like sometimes it's fun to watch stuff blow up. Sometimes it's a good happy ending movie, but some movies just make you think, right? And I picked one that because I heard Red Dawn mentioned about 4 times during the post episode chat last week. I thought I should probably pick something different. So I picked something from well, even before my generation, because even though I'm as old as fuck, but anyway, I'm still not
Time
that old.
Oldest time itself.
Yes, I'm not as old as when this movie first came out in theaters, which was 1970. My movie is called No Blade of Grass. And I put a little Wikipedia link into it regarding the movie history and everything else. However, it is one of the many books put out by the author called John Christopher as a movie adaptation of the book. And John Christopher is like, your top level doom porn author and one of the OG gangsters of post-apocalyptic stuff, because he must have put out at least 30 or 40 books that dealt with post-normal civilization. Ex-World War II fighter pilot, just like Roald Dahl, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, George Orwell, all these other guys are kind of affected by wartime stuff. So I think John Christopher probably dealt a lot with the what if, especially during the course of his military career. And so he put out this book, and it was immensely successful, actually. And the book, of course, is much better than the movie. But this book basically deals with the concept of what happens if all grass-based food has some sort of a disease, like a blight, that won't allow it to grow. So worldwide, imagine if all wheat, barley, rice, or corn was not able to grow, and the world had to adjust. It's not exactly out of the realm of possibility with monocropping going on right now, right? So anyway, I picked this book because basically had a bunch of ideas that fit into the preparedness mindset. And I think he basically intentionally did it that way because he was kind of worried about what was going to happen with the Soviets and everything else at the time, post-war. And but it's actually pretty awesome because if you look back at this movie, it hasn't aged well because the special effects are horrible and the cast looks like a bunch of Austin Powers rejects characters. But with the accent to boot, but it's pretty awesome when you actually look at it as the ultimate bug out movie. It really is actually really well done. So it starts off with these guys very rationally kind of trying to form a mag during a dinner party, and so they're sitting there talking back and forth. One guy's like, "Well, I've got contacts in the government that can warn me if something's going to go down soon, so we'll have time to leave town." And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, did you hear that about China? They just had to nerve gas 300 million of their own people because they're all starved to death." And they're like, "Oh, pity." That was pretty much it. It was just so typical of the generation, right? They're just like, "Oh, that sounds horrible. Oh well, moving along." And of course, in typical fashion, they make a really bad plan to evacuate the city because they're not exactly professional preppers. And of course, they leave it to the very last minute. And I think we can relate to lockdowns. And of course, the lockdown happens, and they have 5 minutes to pack, and then they pick the world's worst possible vehicle to bug out with. And of course, was it
a Prius?
No, it was like some god awful Vauxhall or something like that from the UK.
1970, it was probably a Gremlin.
It's probably like a 60s vehicle anyways, like a horrible station wagon anyway. And then, so of course, typical continuation bias they suffer from, they don't want to tell the daughter what's going on because they don't want to upset her. And they don't want to like pack anything, they want to make sure they take their favorite pictures with them versus like, knives, matches, or it might actually work. And the mag kind of falls apart right off the bat. Now, the nice thing is because in the book that goes into more detail, but basically they do talk about the fact that it's a family farm. They have it's a bug out location that's nicely, isolated in this private little valley with this private little water source and everything else. And the original Meg idea was to bug out together to this location. But of course, the bug out gets messed up because they don't plan it very well. And then they run into all sorts of moral dilemmas with, they knock on a gun shop door at like 6 a.m. And of course, back in the 60s, you would answer the door if you're the gun shop owner, of course.
Well, yeah, that's how that works, right?
Yeah, and so of course, even back then the UK required licensing and everything else, these guys decided they're going to try and take some guns and ammo without a license, which leads to, of course, that moral dilemma. You need it to survive, but you don't have a license. So, geez, what are we going to do? And so, of course, then it turns into, well, I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but it turns into a bad scene, and the weirdness starts coming out in people, which, during emergency stressful times, weirdness comes out in people, right? So it actually does touch on that quite well. To the point where you're looking at this one guy like, what's his malfunction? And yeah, that's just a normal thing under stress, right? And under normalcy bias, again, they run into a military checkpoint. They make a point of shooting the troops to get through, and then they don't want to keep the military weapons afterwards because they're worried about being caught with them. I'm like, well, you just committed murder. I don't think you need to worry about being caught with a machine gun at this point. So it was a really, really strange outlook on this movie. It was like one of those things where you're like, I think they just don't get it. Anyways, and so yeah, in the course of 9 meals, the society is completely falling apart, and it was a really well done movie. So I think there's a lot of lessons to take away from that. At the very end, it basically boils down to you can't save everyone, and so not everybody's going to get to the bug out location, and then they have to rationalize it because the bug out location is limited in the carrying capacity of the farmland, the actual physical space they have, and how many food stores they have, because they might be able to survive with 10 people for a year or 5 people for 20 people for 6 months. So what do you do, right? And you don't know how long this emergency is going to go on. And obviously they can't grow a lot of food because everything's falling apart. And
kill the 10 people and extend it by 3 months.
Sorry, what was that?
Kill the other 10 people and extend it by 3 months.
That's right. Or you have a daughter move out and your food stores go up by 25%, right?
You've done the calculation.
I done my calculations, yeah. So it was a really interesting movie, and consider it was 1970, and the whole zombie porn movie genre hadn't really started up yet. I think there was one George Romero movie out by then, and it's a really interesting take. I mean, like I said, it didn't age well, but if you're willing to look past that, it's actually it's worth your time. And that's pretty much what I had.
Cool. Very nice.
All right.
Oh shoot! How did I end up second? I went for the low-hanging fruit and talked about Red Dawn. If you haven't seen Red Dawn, then stop listening. You're no longer welcome here. If you've only watched the 2012 Red Dawn, then you're allowed to listen, but your homework is to watch the original because it's the best.
And hang your head in shame.
Also, yes, hang your head in shame. But I think Red Dawn has just about everything. It has a solid reason to bug out. Right, you've got a foreign invasion. Depending on which version you've watched, I think can we just not acknowledge the 2012 version because it was so terrible?
Well, I will acknowledge the fact that they touch on EMPs because they use that as a bit of a precursor to invasion, which I thought was kind of a neat idea.
Yeah. Okay. So, depending on which version you watch, it has either a surprise invasion of paratroops or everything just stops working all of a sudden, and then the troops land. So then the ensuing bug out, and who can we take and who can we not, and how quickly can we get out? Then the insurgency, which is just phenomenal. I'm probably going to get a Wolverines tattoo on me somewhere at some point. Living off the land, making sure that they, having the skills to be able to keep themselves alive became crucially important. And then a boatload of dead commies, which is the absolute best part of Red Dawn.
Well, yeah, that's right. But also the mental game too, right? They knew they were overwhelmed, overwhelming odds.
Yep.
No help was coming. They could just give up and walk into the camps. That's true. Or they could try and free the other guys that are in the camps. And, there's a lot of moral dilemmas going on there.
Yep.
Same thing with
and they also right there, they also knew that the more that they attacked the invading forces, the worse it was for the people in the camps. So again, the moral dilemma: do they continue with what they're doing and make it worse for the people to the left with the hope of freedom? Better to die on your feet than live on your knees. Or do they back off and hope that the benevolent overseers will do better for the people that are captive? And in my opinion, they made the right choice. I would rather die knowing that someone was coming to save me than so quote exist or live under captivity.
Well, and too, same thing with the girls too. Like, look at the dilemma they had. They started out with a couple of Russians trying to have their way with them, and in the end, they decided, well, it's better to die on my feet type of thing, and so they decided to go fight versus being some Russian overlord sex toy. So that's a lot to be said about a lot of things there. And again, one guy's father was punished for handing out weapons to them because you helped the resistance, even though there wasn't really an officially resistance yet.
Yep. So there's a lot going on there. It is it's a terrible movie. Let's be real about this. It is not a high budget movie, but it does have a lot of things, as Scott mentioned in the beginning, right? It has a lot of things for us to think about. There are a lot of moral dilemmas. There are a lot of practical dilemmas. There are a lot of skills that are required that had the wrong people ended up in that position, that movie wouldn't have happened, right? The whole plot would have just fallen apart pretty well instantly. And it also lends to the concept that the better prepared you are to live with the least amount that you can, the better off you're going to be.
I still think that's going to be one of the most enduring scenes from 1980s movies. It's like when they go into the sporting goods store and just start ripping stuff off the shelves and loading up the truck as best they can.
Yep, absolutely. Cases of soup, and it was very much beans, bullets, and band-aids, and they mounted an effective resistance to that, which was fantastic. It was great. It was the best possible outcome. So that was mine. Contagion was a close second, but frankly, I didn't have time to do the notes. So
there you go. So Dan in the live chat's got a couple of suggestions for us. He says, with all the talk about UFOs lately, perhaps Aliens, Independence Day, or even better, War of the Worlds.
Well, the initial attack of War in the Worlds was still pretty awesomely done as far as the cinematography goes. And again, the deal with EMP and having to replace ignition circuits and everything else, that was really well done. Yep. Yeah. Interesting enough, I guess on Friday, the UFO report came out from the government, and nobody cared.
Look at that.
Yeah, I think we've all just acknowledged at this point that there has to be, there very simply has to be. If we just
interesting. I haven't read that UFO report that came out from the U.S. military there, but I guess they finally put out everything they have on UFOs, and I guess they do admit that there is life that they can't explain.
Of course.
And I guess it's got zero media coverage, right?
Yep.
So
look, it doesn't fit the bad scary narrative because it's just simply unexplained. But if you think about it, right, our sun is simply a star like any other in the sky, and it has approximately 9 planets circling it, and one of those has life that we recognize as intelligent-ish and usable and sustainable. And there are how many billion stars that we are aware of currently, and the odds are astronomically small to non-existent that if you average out the number, average out that there's one planet circling most of those stars that may sustain some kind of life. If not, what a colossal waste of effort the entire universe is.
Well, either it's mathematically impossible for there not to be alien life, or if we are alone in the universe, then we should actually be taking better care of ourselves. But anyway, if we are that unique. But anyway, just for Brandon.
I was just gonna say, now that we've gone off about UFOs, you're welcome again.
Yeah, so Brandon, sorry about that. I mean, I know your neighbor's listening now, but we're not all about UFOs, I swear to God. So anyway,
we're not about UFOs, but
yeah.
Look, I'm not saying they're aliens, but there are probably aliens.
Service Communications mentions the series Jericho. Yeah, that was a good series. It was an interesting thing on nuclear war and how the community has to kind of band together to kind of overcome certain obstacles, everything from fake help arriving to bad neighbors to food shortages and everything else. I seriously think they unfortunately cut that one short just when I think things started to get interesting. I think they canceled the series, which is a little bit tough. But anyway, good series overall, but short.
Yep. So for me, I've just got a couple listed here. So given all the weather stuff was going on the other day, I figured I'd throw a twister in here. Just because good old Mother Nature coming to get you type movie.
We got cows.
Got cows.
Yeah.
You got vehicles thrown all over the place. You got a nice little love story going on in the middle there throughout all of it. Twisted into it, if you will. Terrible.
Helen Hunt in Gray State's undress. I'm about it.
Yeah, so you know.
But it was actually, it's pretty good. I mean, they had a good plot to it, and as well, like we laughed about the cows flying through the air, but what did we see in Manitoba there at Eli when that one hit? Sure enough, that was like the same thing, and they had like trucks flying through the air and everything else. It's like it's not like we can't get them here in Canada. So
nope. Oh, it happens.
So
think about yesterday.
Think about that, right? So we got cows flying through the air. This is something that we know happens. Now let's go back like 35 million some odd years. You picture a T-Rex flying through the air with his little arms flailing, and he's like trying to put his feet under him, and he's like up in the air, and you get the whole Wizard of Oz theme going on in the background.
And he was already angry to begin with.
He was already pissed off to begin with.
You tell him to brace for impact, and he says he can't because his arms are too short.
cover the back of your neck with your arms.
I can't. Oh, I love how this went to dinosaurs.
Yeah, aliens to dinosaurs, just like that. That's amazing.
Brandon, if you haven't turned your Bluetooth speaker off yet, I suggest you do.
Brandon's neighbor. This is not a typical episode, and I really encourage you to go back to like episode 7 or 8, where we're just kind of getting our feet under us, and it was really informative.
We tried to be professional back then.
And serious nature. Yeah.
But getting back into the list here, of course, it's a prepper podcast, so World War Z. Had to, just because zombies.
Okay,
right?
Sure, yeah.
So let's take zombies.
No other reason but zombies.
Let's take zombies as an analogy for the general masses of people that are not prepared for life. Right? Yep. They're chasing you down. They want what you have, and you have to deal with these hordes of undead. I think it was Mark Twain said that it's the downfall of society will not be external, but will be when technology surpasses independent thought or something like that. And if you watch people walking down the street with their face buried in their phone, we're most of the way there, right? The zombies already exist. We just call them smartphone addicts.
Yeah, they're just not in the form that we see in the movies. Fair enough.
Yeah, no, and actually the book World War Z was, of course, much better. It had nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. But in the book, they do mention the fact that when Buddy goes off searching for a cure, they basically hold his family hostage, for lack of a better term, meaning like if he doesn't go out and find a cure, they don't get a space on the boat that provides them with, safety and food. And as soon as he dies in the course of his duty, they're going to drop them off on the nearest island and let them fend for themselves. So again, human interaction, what they can get out of somebody, how much your life is worth at a certain point. And it was a really interesting take on that too.
Yeah.
That and they built a wall. I mean, a big wall around Israel. I guess that was pretty cool. That didn't work, but
yeah.
It's amazing how every disaster movie starts with someone not listening to the scientists.
That's right.
or I Am Legend, where everybody listens to the scientists, and then it turns out to be a really bad idea.
Yep. True.
Fair enough.
Zombies yet again. We just can't win. There's going to be zombies no matter what we do.
Yeah, no matter what, they're going to be zombies. So we might as well be ready for it.
My movie actually doesn't have zombies in it.
It should.
Well, yeah. You got to leave then, Scott.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Movie. Yeah. See you later. It's been good.
So I chose The Martian with Matt Damon. Not a classical prepper movie, but very much a survivalist movie. The premise is in the near-term future, there's a mission to Mars. They have to evac because a huge storm is about to swamp their camp. Matt Damon accidentally gets left behind. They all think he's dead. He loses communications. But the fact the movie actually deals with food and, bodging together survival and trying to make communications work with whatever equipment he can scrounge up and MacGyver together. Going back to your potatoes, Alan, he has to grow potatoes because he's got enough food to survive a little while, but if he doesn't start growing some, he's going to be in trouble. So the fact that the movie actually deals with food issues, the mundane day-to-day stuff, none of the, we talked about it in our year-long War Games episode. Firewood's going to be a huge issue, but it doesn't make very good cinematography to just have a guy splitting firewood for a week. So I really like how it dealt with a lot of the other sort of issues. It is a hostile environment. Maybe there were no zombies, but anyway, it just makes me think, and I quite enjoyed it for those reasons. So.
Well, I mean, the whole movie was about improvise, adapt, overcome, right? And
Yep.
so everything that came his way that it was a problem, he had to figure out a workaround, or else he was going to die, basically. And it boils down to the mental game too, because I mean, he could have given up at any point and just laid down and died, but he didn't. And there's a lot of physics. I had a huge issue with a lot of the physics involved, but okay, sure, it made for a good movie. But growing potatoes in your own poop, or having to, I guess, cobble together some fixes, whether it be the escape pod he ends up driving to, or making, the damaged space station work to his advantage, trying to establish communications that, to make everybody know he was there. And then on the other side of that movie too is Mission Control had the choice. Do they want to tell the crew that they left the guy behind and let them just come back to Earth and then mount a rescue mission, or do they want to give them the choice of turning around and going and getting them? And then all this other stuff. There's a lot of choices involved with people's personality and I guess how they would react to it.
Yeah, and I mean, not a classic movie. I mean, it's no Red Dawn, but I think it makes me think, which is what I like in these, in this discussion.
Absolutely. I mean, you could class movies like Castaway in with that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's more where it's a overcoming an emergency and help is coming theoretically. This is not the end of the world. This is a short-term emergency, which frankly is probably a whole lot more reasonable to prepare for, right? In terms of what could happen, probably a whole lot more reasonable, but nowhere near as fun to think about.
Service Communications had another question. What would you consider to be the first prepper-oriented movie? Swiss Family Robinson, Robinson Crusoe. I'll take it one step further. Of course, I Am Legend is based on the Omega Man with Charlton Heston. The Omega Man is actually based on The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price back from the 1950s, I think, which actually predates Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah, but Swiss Family Robinson was a book from the mid 1800s before that. So
yeah, but Robinson Crusoe was based on, I think, late 1700s, was it not?
I believe so. Yep.
But that was a book. But first movie, I would say probably Last Man on Earth, or I can't think of anything else that predate that one. But it was pretty good. I mean,
The Day the Earth Stood Still was back there. I think that was pre World War II.
Yeah, that was still black and white as well. I mean,
Yep.
But there's that's more of an apocalyptic movie or something like that, or pseudo-apocalyptic. But yeah, no, I'd say a survival movie, Last Man on Earth, probably. That's definitely going back.
And as a throwback to that comment, I can credit Swiss Family Robinson as being the trigger to my desire to be prepared for anything. My grandpa used to read that to me when I was homesick. I actually still have the book on my shelf, the same copy that he used to read to me, and it was I just absolutely loved that book. It's a phenomenal story.
I did grow up watching the TV series as well, which was pretty good.
Ooh, Lost in Space would be right back there too.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. Brandon also asks, how about 28 days later? What do you do to prepare for complete destruction of society in just a few weeks? Well, especially if you're in a hospital in a coma and you wake up, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
The whole with that movie, I think the first thing I got angry with is that he woke up supposedly after the destruction of society and he wasn't dehydrated.
Isn't that also the opening, like the pilot episode of Walking Dead?
Exactly the same, ripped off to the T. Yeah, so Cillian Murphy, I think it was, that played that, one of his first movies. Anyway, it was pretty good, except for he was completely clueless and he was really slow on the uptake, and I'm surprised he didn't get offed in the first 5 minutes of the movie. But it's like, you know, if you wake up and the entire society's gone crazy, there's some random frothing at the mouth kind of people running towards it, and he's just like, oh, that's peculiar. Doesn't really react beyond that. I was like, and then the girl that plays Moneypenny, I can't remember her first name, but she was in that movie. I think it was her first movie as well. So it's kind of neat, but running fast zombies, not nearly as fun as slow shambling zombies. But
the fast running zombies are the scary ones, right? Like,
yeah,
the rest of them, you can see them coming. You've got some time to react to it. It's the fast running ones, they sneak up on you.
But the tail end of that movie was actually really good in the fact that basically they had military trying to maintain military bearing, but making some really horrible choices in life, like keeping women and shooting men. And
I can't imagine the military making bad choices in general.
Yeah, and then they had food shortages to deal with. They had they're basically taking what's theirs because they're the ones with the guns. And then there was some real moral right turns, I guess, taken in that movie. But again, the sequel was kind of interesting in what they'd done afterwards as well, trying to recover, because it was just the one island that had the problem, right? And it was an interesting movie. I think the end was actually better than the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, to Brendan's question, I think there's a lot of different scenarios where society would collapse really quickly, and a few weeks' time, as we were saying, the whole nine meals away from chaos. It probably, certain things could happen without a zombie virus that would ruin our day really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it just takes power grid, really.
It's true.
But how do you prepare for that? I guess just be as less reliant as you can. You'll never be self-reliant, but I guess the less you're tied to, externally supplied sources, the better.
And redundancy and flexibility and adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not much you can really do. Let's see here. What else we got here? Do you guys hear about this one? Dan's asking about a book called Mountain Men, which I guess they have podcasts as well called We're Alive. Excellent zombie and survival audio story. Never heard of it, unfortunately.
No. I saw that come up in the chat there, and I Googled it, and Brokeback Mountain came up, so I stopped.
That's good. Mailman, New Brunswick, I can give you a mic drop on this one. Gilligan's Island. Well, if they would have shot Gilligan on episode 1, they would have been rescued at episode 2.
I mean, if they had just gone with the Harlem Globetrotters when they showed up to the island and then magically disappeared.
No, seriously, Gilligan had a 6-shooter with like 2 bullets left in it on episode 1, and he wasted them both. But again, if Skipper just strangled out Gilligan, every other opportunity they had would have been worked out fine. So anyway,
sounds right.
Skipper just didn't take any command authority there at all.
Well, that's likely how they got in the problem in the first place.
Yeah. Philip mentions Zombieland. You got to have your rules. Yep. Well, unfortunately, Zombieland didn't pay attention to the rule where gasoline goes bad after a while and power does not stay on. But hey, Emma Stone is a brunette. Woo, woo.
Guys, I was shocked and disappointed to learn that Emma Stone is not, in fact, a natural redhead.
She's actually blonde. Yeah.
Yeah. I was deeply upset when I learned that. Which was also rather recently for some reason.
That's right about
probably
now.
One of the best extended cameos in history, though.
Yes.
With Bill Murray. But Zombieland was an awesome, entertaining movie, but not a whole lot of lessons to be learned there. Let's see here. Brandon mentions 28 Days Later again as the evolution of a character going from clueless to killing another human with his bare hands in just a few days. That is true. He did actually come around eventually, but he needed basically some hard lessons learned, I guess, along the way. So,
yep.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I had.
Well, shall we move into the podcast challenge with that then?
So think of some of your favorite prepper movies, survivalist movies, or some of the ones we've discussed here this evening, and apply some of the key things in that to your own preps. Are there gaps in your preps that would be highlighted if you were in their situation? Let us know.
Nice. Upcoming events.
All right. Still for now, I don't know what you guys are doing in Ontario. It seems to change it on the daily, but for
I
now,
don't
you
think
can
we
still,
know either.
yeah, you can still attend some Mapleseed. I think for now, I think listener Eric tried to get on with one of the Mapleseed, but they're actually sold out or booked up. So I guess if you still have one open in your area, take advantage of it. That's about all we have. That's at mapleseedrifleman.com/events.
And we've got a deal of the week.
Cobra FRS radios, $28 a pair. I'm actually rather upset by this because I've owned Cobra FRS radios for a number of years, and they're always like 60 or $70 a pair. I've lost them and had them damaged and had to go buy more. And I currently don't have a need for any of these, but I think I'm probably going to buy a couple of sets anyways. So the link to those at visions.ca is in the show notes, and that is no license required. FRS frequency, short range-ish radios that are absolutely phenomenal and really handy to have.
Well, yeah, and if you don't have the ability to go out and get your ham license, it's certainly a good field expedient fix for that.
That's something to have in your EMP box, that's for sure.
It'll fit in your 50 cal can.
Sure will.
There are
Got to fill it up.
And they also have, you know, they fill a need outside of ham. If you're doing, you know, a back and forth communication with somebody, you're not tying up a channel for no damn reason if you're close. You don't necessarily need to be on ham if you're doing something close in. If you can use them for, you know, I know a lot of trades use them for communicating back and forth between floors and what have you, and they're a cheap alternative to a company owning a, you know, a set of, you know, Motorola radios and paying for a commercial license.
Okay, and DM Davey, you're just making fun of my age now when you say Breakfast Club. And we all know high school is something to be survived or endured, not like, you know, enjoyed. But is it a survival movie? I don't know.
Don't you forget about me is actually a song warning about dementia.
Oh boy, let's go to shoutouts. So I've got a shout out to Adam, a new $7 Patreon for us. So appreciate the support, helps keep the show going. So thanks to Adam.
Appreciate that, Adam.
Awesome. I got one for Henry and Janine at Budget Shooter Supply. Once again, when nobody else has anything, they have almost everything. So yeah, thanks again, guys, for the fast shipping and for maintaining good stock despite the ammo insanity going on right now.
I'm going to shout out a couple of my mag friends around here who have a kick-ass library and all sorts of just wonderful reading in there that I'm going to be partaking in for many years, I suspect.
I wish I had friends.
Nice. Oh boy. All right. Email and iTunes reviews.
All right, I got one from Evil Von Scary, which has got to be the best username ever. And so he just mentions regarding our EMP, or I guess 1 second after book review. So regarding the Transformers that we talked about, he says there's over 40 manufacturers of various sizes of Transformers in Ontario alone. One in Kitchener-Waterloo area makes them for the Bruce power plant. Granted, those things have to ship by rail and wide load trucks, but they are made domestically as well. Okay, he's absolutely right. Small Transformers are definitely made domestically. There's no doubt about that. And now I did source a lot of this stuff from the Congressional EMP report, but I kind of backed it up again by doing some little interwebs research myself. So just to make sure that he was on the same page as us, we were specifically talking about the large Transformers, like at the substations and up, like, you know, basically where all the large power lines meet and everything else. Household Transformers are generally 10 to 25,000 watts of output type of thing, like the, you know, on the power pole just outside of your house. When we say large Transformers, we're talking about 300 million watts. So these are the super duper large ones that can't be moved, generally are half buried usually, and are definitely unique and specific to the substation involved. Now, theoretically, there are 6 manufacturers in the U.S. that could make these 300 million watt transformers, but don't. They literally said, well, we have the capability of doing so, but we just don't feel that that's a moneymaker for us, so we're not going to. And due to a series of mergers, acquisitions, and shenanigans, if you ask me, there are now 2 manufacturers of large transformers in the world, ABB and Siemens. Now, ABB is based in Asia. You can guess where. Siemens is made in Germany. Oh, so it's Germans. Now, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, ABB is owned by majority shareholders BlackRock, which pretty much owns everything with Vanguard around the world. Siemens is owned by Fisher Asset Management and BlackRock. so in reality, you have all the large manufacturing of mega transformers made by one company now. So that's around the world. So that's a thing.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, lead time is still 18 months out for an order, and that's assuming that you're only ordering 1 or 2 at a time. Now, if you had thousands go out at once with an EMP, you can imagine the backlog would be longer than 18 months, and hence, 1 second after. So
if there's an EMP, how are they going to power the factory to build the transformers?
Well, we're assuming the EMP did not go over ABB in Asia or Siemens in Germany. But even if it did, if one of those 2 got knocked out, then obviously your lead time for replacement would basically double because only half the manufacturing capability. Or if you were not friends with BlackRock, then I guess your lead time turns into infinity. The other, I guess, issue in the
damage and shipping. Whoops, damage and shipping.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, our backlogs is too big. We can't help you.
Sorry, we never received your order.
Exactly. So the biggest issue with the congressional report was the fact that they have basically a total reliance on foreign sources for their major components. So the U.S. admits that they have no capability of replacing any major transformers that get knocked out for whatever reason, just wear and tear or EMP or anything else. So they're saying that is a tactical or strategic shortcoming that they need to overcome. And that's what the EMP report is, almost 10 years old now. And I don't think things have gotten better.
Why would they? Once again, relying on the government to get something done.
And done efficiently at that.
And I mean, you look at COVID vaccines as something that, perfect example where we don't have any domestic capability, PPE production. We're reliant on foreign sources. And doesn't matter how good a friend you are with these guys, when there's that demand, it's the absolute Wild West. I mean, you hear the stories coming out of China with PPE and outright piracy at the airport. So, it would be every bit as bad with any massive infrastructure pieces that are in high demand, whatever the situation.
That's a good point. Alan. You're muted, Alan.
Damn it. Funny guy. Email from Kevin Kalinchuk. I apologize if I mispronounced that, Kevin. Punch a hole in the gas tank to get the gas out. Then you don't need to worry about the anti-siphon devices. Or ever using that vehicle again if you wanted to come back and rely on it. Anti-siphon devices are a great idea. They're a theoretical problem. You could also just drop the gas tank and drag it away if you really wanted to. They're only held on by a couple of brackets. Lots of options. The level of desperation within which you exist will dictate how it is that you acquire the fuel that you need. We would caution everyone that while under the rule of law, this is a really bad idea.
Yep.
Like a really bad idea.
Well, it turns one problem, being low on gas, into 2 problems if you ever plan on using that vehicle again.
Well, and, ground contamination, unless you're draining the entire tank, and, somebody
and gas flammable.
Well, there's that, but that I mean, we saw that when the pipeline shut down on the East Coast, right? And people were like putting gasoline into plastic bags and trying to transport it.
Yeah.
Let's never underestimate how, what's the rule? You never underestimate the stupidity of people in large groups. Yeah.
Well, I tried to get you to go down the carbon monoxide line there, but it didn't work.
I've already made my comment about carbon monoxide this episode.
I've got one here from taxpayer Dave. It just says, in the long emergency, step 1, drill out the rivets.
Once again,
Yeah.
I don't understand why you'd want to drill the rivets out of your trailer or something like that. That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
we will caution that, well, under the rule of law, this is a really bad idea.
Yep.
After that, we take no responsibility for what you do.
No.
This show
Probably,
is for entertainment only. And,
Yeah, entertainment only.
This is
Don't do
not
all the
legal
things that we
advice.
say. It's not legal
Yep.
advice. We're not lawyers. All that good stuff we probably should have said at the beginning. We're saying near the end.
Yep.
Because, well, why not?
At least it's out there somewhere.
And with that disclaimer, I'll bring episode 121 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or, of course, your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It does help other people find us.
And we do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube for now. If you want an early peek at the show, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. It gives you an alert when we are going live. If you prefer to watch on Facebook, then I imagine they have a very similar process, but I don't know. I don't Facebook. If you want to reach me, you can contact me at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca.
I prescribe to the Grayman theory, and I'm not responsible enough to have my own email address. So if you're looking for Scott, feedback at prepperpodcast.ca works just fine.
Yep, I know where to find you.
yeah, it probably, so does the government. But anyway. Yeah. So, yeah, on that note, until C10 comes through, or what's the newest one? C96, or wherever. They got a second one coming through now.
Spin the wheel. Yep.
Yeah. You can reach in directly by emailing me at theislandretreat@gmail.com and on Gab and Odyssey at The Island Retreat. You can also find me on Canadian Patriot Podcast, which is on iTunes and YouTube, and the Discord group called Canadian Patriot Podcast. Email if you want an invite to the Discord group. It's actually kind of fun. Lots of memes floating around there, and a lot of gear talk and everything else going on.
Yep.
They can find us discussing why government waste in society has me taking notes during movies.
Oh, jeez. All right. Well, please check out
and
Rapid
the government
Survival at rapidsurvival.com. You can get me there on the live chat. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
And keep learning.